I'm just gonna briefly set the floor for our panel today, just like it happened in the previous panels. The goal of this is to have a very open, interactive dialogue, presenters, audience. So we got a little bit less than an hour to go. So I'm gonna briefly introduce everyone that is here. This is Sylvopastoral and Livestock, panel number 4. So if you got your number wrong, please make sure you're on the right stage. To my right, we got Álvaro Zapata. Álvaro is from Colombia, works on silvopasture in CIPAP. He's gonna tell us a little bit more about himself in a minute. Then I got Asad Bedran, is that right how I pronounce that? So Asad, you're here with the farm Running Meats or Running W Meats? Running W Meats. Asad is a sponsor for this conference, so thank you for making that happen too. Then we got Paul Lore. Paul, you're a cattle distributor, is that right?
Cattle, yeah.
Okay, and are you also a sponsor? Yes, so thank you for that as well. And then further down, we got Brock Mencken from Costa Rica, Rancho Las Imágenes. Brock has been working with regenerative agriculture for the past 20 years. He's gonna tell us more, but primarily lots of native grasses down at the ranch, no chemicals, no pesticides. So we are eager to hear, a little bit more of maybe 1 minute of your experience, things that have been going right and wrong in this area, and just let's open the floor, let the questions flow, the comments flow. So please, go ahead. Whomever wants in the panel. It doesn't have to be in this order.
Stream right.
Yes, all right, Beth.
When did Colombia and CPEP start working with the Sylvopastoral? When did your branches and people, when did it go out of the research labs and ranchers started really implementing it?
I think it was at the very beginning of the creation of CIPAP. CIPAP was created in 1986. Although at that moment the main goal was to use sugarcane and sugarcane byproducts for feeding animals. At the same time, we started working with some trees associated with cattle production. It's a history of a story of about 30 years.
And what percent of the branches in Colombia now use some version of that system?
I don't know the figure. No, I think even now it's a very low. It's a very low proportion. But I think the positive point is that let's say 15 years ago, cattle was just grassland. I think now for most farmers, even if they don't plant trees, now they think that trees are good, trees are maybe good, and some of them are doing the job. It's not easy, I think, in all Latin America to change that idea that trees are enemies of grasses, and to start working with grasses with trees as a good for grasses. And an important point is that the main organization of cattle grazers, cattle ranchers in Colombia is called FEDEGAN, and is in the mission, the goals of FEDEGAN to establish, actually we are working with them, to establish silvopastoral systems. And in the goals of the FEDEGAN is to decrease the grassland area in Colombia from 35 million hectares to 25 million hectares. And in that goal, silvopastoral systems are one of the main tools. Now we could say the silvopastoral systems are becoming mainstream in Colombian livestock.
Well, I come from northwestern Costa Rica, a very different climate than here. We have a rather extreme dry season, which is becoming more extreme.
We can't hear you. Sorry.
Okay.
That's right now.
Yeah, we have a very extreme dry season, and through necessity, we have had to try to regenerate our hillsides and produce more forest. We have half of our areas in forest now, and pretty much all of our pastures are more like meadows with surrounded by forest, and we've our objective is to try to retain as much moisture as we can to make it through the dry periods, and that's through the forest have been our best way to achieve this. Also, as the dry season comes along, grasses begin to have less value, and we get a lot of feed out of forest seeds, forest forage. Seems almost like each week there's a different tree that's producing seeds, and so it kind of bridges the gap between our dry periods. So building forest was kind of a no-brainer for us. And Costa Rica has a program, FONAFIFA. It's a environmental services program where they pay you for reforestation, and we're involved in that program for I guess 7 years now. But no longer are we. But if we didn't have the forest, we'd be in a lot worse shape. We basically have no more external inputs. We're able to hold the moisture. Cattle stay in better condition during the bad times, and it has been a real benefit to us to have that, and as well as I've planted a lot of improved grasses, and but what has worked out best for us is the native grasses, grama, batais, hinabrillo, a lot of different names for it, and that combined with legumes and forages and creating a diverse forage has helped us a lot as well. Your turn.
All right, well, I'm not much of a public speaker, but I'm the registered distributor for Cartier in Costa Rica for forest seeds, for the forest seed bank. Okay, and I guess that's why they put me on this panel, no? What we have, originally when we started, I've been doing about two and a half years. When we started, I was just focusing on bringing in seed by order for nurseries. What I've tried to do now is bring in small quantities. It's a little bit hard because seeds are hard to store. So if they don't sell right away, they lose their viability. But I try to bring in small quantities to offer it to people who want to try a couple small seeds and stuff like that, different. I have the booth here with seeds if you want to try. I mean, there's a lot more available. I know yesterday when Mr. David was speaking about the silvopastoral systems, he mentioned Lucina.
Leucaena.
Leucaena.
Lucina.
And I believe that's all. We also have that available. I haven't brought it in yet, so if people want that, we can also bring that in. And I mean, I do have a small cattle farm, interestingly enough, and we have some hardwood groves. And I had never even thought to mix both of them. I'd never even thought about that. Now after this, I'm definitely going to try that more. Maybe I'm going to try grazing some in my groves and trying to integrate some of the systems we've been speaking about. I mean, my experience in the systems I won't tell you is great. Mostly what I can tell you more about maybe some of the plants that you may be interested in, different types, different seeds. I mean, in that, what is available, what I can get. I mean, I'd also after this you know, I don't know what you want, symposium, what's the proper name for this? Conference, yes. I'm interested in maybe trying to collect some local seeds. I've had requests before for Ramon nut and other seeds. We've never really collected them, but I may, you know, work towards doing that too. One of the biggest problems with seeds is the storage. If you don't have the proper storage facility, they lose their viability very quickly, so it makes it a bit tricky, you know? But, yeah, I mean.
And you order, and you get orders before you get orders from a second, you order them here, I want a 5 pound, and he wants 5 pound, and the one want, then you go and get your orders.
That would make it the easiest. That would make it the easiest. I do have a couple species in stock, so if you want a couple pounds of the species I have in stock, I have those. If not, if you find people where you can come together, a group, and buy them. One of the biggest holds back with buying seeds, which raises the cost, is the permitting. The export permits from Costa Rica are $200 US per shipment. The import permit here, I think, is you only have to pay Baja 50. There's no duty, but I mean, you know, you have shipping and everything that raises the cost. And if you only want a small amount of seeds, the price becomes prohibitive, which therefore is partly the problem.
You know, perhaps this is something that Regeneration Belize can help maybe organize, a big purchase where everybody, and especially if you're a member, maybe we can get a discount for members, but we can all combine together, and that way, because these permits, it doesn't matter if you're buying 5 pounds or 500, the permit is one fee. So if we can make a large orders, maybe one before the beginning of the rainy season and another one before the conference, then everybody, you get big orders, it's easier for you to handle, and everybody would get a lower unit price.
Definitely. If we could do something like that, where people put in requests or something, I have already been doing that with nurseries for teak and other things, where they'd come and give me a request, and then we put in a collective order, you know. But with other species where there may be interest where people have, definitely, I mean, I'm happy to do that. I have my office in Santa Elena in Cayo. I can give out my number, my email, people can contact me, we can put a list together, and like a deadline after this amount of time, and then once, depending on how much we order, that would decide the price per pound, kind of, you know.
Got a question? Yeah.
Well, I would have the record of it, of course, in my office. I don't have it on me, but yes. I've tried to do that. I mean, honestly, the problem in Belize, and I think we all know that, the customer base is very small, right? So I've done that with the nurseries, where I know they want teak seed at the beginning of the year to plant, so that it's ready to plant at the end of the dry season, and then they don't get their order of teak that they were expecting, and so they don't buy the seed. And then you end up with the seed. I actually have a lot of teak seed that I can give anybody who wants. If it grows, well, lucky for you. If it doesn't, you can use it for mulch. Yeah, so that's actually.
But also looking at other alternatives if you don't sell a product. What are your other avenues of disposing of it, fertilizer, mulch?
Well, that's a big loss. That for mulch, using seeds for mulch is a big loss because yeah. What I've tried to do too, and I haven't got the best reception. Some of the hardware places try to put it in there, but it's people don't go to the hardware store to buy mahogany seeds or teak seeds. They just don't move. I've had some sitting at Midwest Steel a while, and none sold. I took them off their shelf. I mean, they don't want it sitting there too long if it's not selling. You know, I mean, so, but yeah, I honestly would really like to push that more. I really believe in agroforestry. I mean, we have a large investment in the agroforestry industry already. I believe it is a future for Belize. You know, there's a lot of destruction every day. I believe that it's important, and I mean, I'm happy to. Honestly, the prices I sell for, sometimes people complain they're high. By the time you pay shipping and permits and everything, I try to sell almost as cost effectively as possible. There is very little profit in it. I mean, You do have to pay bills, but I try to do it more to encourage it because I believe it's a good future for Belize. Yes, yes.
Sad, perhaps if you got a few words on this? Or?
Well, I just work at Running W Farm. I manage a farm there. They try and do rotational grazing and some what's the word for it? Some feeding, but not intensive feeding, supplement feeding, and not sure what else to tell you. I don't know if you guys have any questions about that. I'm not sure.
Best?
Hassan, you could tell us a little bit about the issue with the frog hoppers. The parents
The
moving into the area
Yeah.
and how you deal with that.
Well, the problem we had with that was the spider bugs, or frog hoppers, they call them here. It's a nymph that sucks the protein out of the grasses. They have it a lot in sugarcane, and what they use for it is a fungus called metarhizium, and that gets into the bugs and breaks them down inside. So we've been putting on a lot of that and seen very good results with it. They'll kill 100 acres or whatever they can get into really quick. And the sugarcane people were very good at helping us to figure out what we needed to do and get that all set up. So that's all working good now.
And what grasses do they affect?
Maybe a little bit louder so that everyone can hear
I
you.
have a question. Are y'all feedlotting before processing, or are y'all doing any aging?
We age and feedlot, not complete, they just supplement feed. They come in and get, and they still have green pastures to go to.
So no 30-day feedlot before processing or anything?
Not locked up in a pen. No, they come in and get if they want. If they don't want, it's there if they want. If they want pasture, they get the pasture. It's open. The feed is there for them if they want it. Yeah.
Thoughts? Yes? Yes, please. 4 questions, all right.
So the first one, I missed the other conference, so I don't know if you already talked about this. So which species perform the best in a silvopastoral system? You mentioned the Leucaena, Ramon. Do you have other 3 species to suggest to use in a pasture? This is the first.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it was better. Bueno, I answered you didn't go to the silvopastoral presentation. Just very quickly, silvopastoral is trees and grassland. Trees and grassland. The Leucaena, we can plant just some few trees, but we use it in a very intensive way. It's called intensive silvopastoral system.
Well, the more you pointed that way, the worse.
Yeah.
Yeah. There.
Intensive silvopastoral system. We plant 10,000 Leucaena trees per hectare. 10,000 and even much more. But 10,000 sounds crazy, but that's a reality, and it's a very, very good system. I could say it's the most sustainable productive system in silvopastoral systems. It's very good one, but please, a caveat, is not a system for all farmers. It requires experience, knowledge, money. Experience, knowledge, money for establishment, experience and knowledge for management. It's not a system for everyone. You need some kind of soil. It's not a plan for acid soils. It's not a plan for the swamps. Really, I remark it because I don't want to see more failure. People, Leucaena, I have Leucaena in my farm. I'm going to plant just some Leucaena. It's a silvopastoral system, and then it spends some money, and after 6 months, 1 year, that Leucaena it's a rubbish. That's a rubbish that Colombian advice. No, please. It requires knowledge, experience, and money for establishment, and it requires knowledge and experience for management. If you don't have that, please don't go to intensive silvopastoral systems. Don't go to intensive silvopastoral systems. My recommendation for most farmers: first, do you have rotational grazing? That's the first step. If you don't have rotational grazing, a good rotational grazing, please don't try any other thing. The first thing is rotation, good, proper rotational grazing. After that, my recommendation, plant trees in the rows, as I mentioned, about rows, 4 rows per hectare. You are going to plant trees, and you are going to protect them with electrical fencing. And in those rows, you are going to plant many different trees. You can plant quina, you can plant madere de cacao, you can plant mahogany, you can plant inga, you can plant cocobolo, you can plant guanacaste, almost whatever tree you want. It's a system a lot. It's a more simple system. It's a very economical one, and with proper management, after 3-4 years, you are going to see the benefits on your product. I want to repeat. I'm going to tell you: don't go to intensive silvopastoral systems if you don't have money, technical support, knowledge, experience.
Was your question about what's the best grass seed to plant? Is that what you said? What was the best grass to plant?
Best trees.
The tree species, okay.
But I think yesterday you had said your favorite was Inca. That's what you had said, if I was not mistaken.
Okay.
I wanted to know why.
No, that's a good question. But I don't want to say that Colombian mentioned just Leucaena and Inga. No. We need, I think the important point is we need to recover our tree cover. We need to recover our tree cover. We don't need just grassland without any cover. In order to improve the sustainability of our systems, we need trees. We need trees. What kind of trees? That's all the details. And then you must think in your farm, your conditions, and just as an example, we can plant Inga. Inga is very, very good in terms of soil fertility. It enhances and it preserves soil fertility. Take into account Inga. But we need other trees. We need wood. Wood every day is going to be more expensive. Good wood. Then plant mahogany, plant cedar, plant cocobolo. The idea is to plant many trees in your farm, of course with planning, and then I'm going to plant some Inga. I know Inga is very good in terms of soil fertility. I'm going to plant cocobolo, I'm going to plant mahogany, I'm going to plant cedar. They are going to produce very quality wood. I'm going to plant maybe Mayflower. Mayflower is a good wood, and at the same time is a really beautiful tree when it flowers. All those considerations we must take into account.
So you don't have a favorite tree. You don't think one is the best. You think we need to mix it.
I love Inga, but I'm not going to say that it's the only one. No.
No, you had said you like Inga. All I want to know is why. What are the benefits? It does
Inga.
nitrogen fixation?
Okay. That's why and actually why we want Inga. Inga is a very good tree. It's a legume. It fixes nitrogen. Yeah? it fixes nitrogen. Your nitrogen is very important for grasses and for coffee or whatever you grow, you need nitrogen. Inga fixes nitrogen. And another important point about Inga is all the time green, but all the time is producing leaf litter. Leaf litter?
Yeah.
It's producing leaf litter, enormous amounts of leaf litter. When you see leaf litter first is organic matter. It's organic matter that the tree is producing through photosynthesis, all those things that you know now very well. And our soil needs organic matter. Those leaves are providing organic matter to the soil. And second, in that leaves you are going to have some minerals: phosphorus, calcium, potassium, magnesium, many minerals. And the important point is those trees are taking those minerals from down in the deep layer of the soil. They are using, the trees use those minerals to grow them. They grow, they produce trunk, they produce leaves, and they produce fruit. When those leaves go down, it means some minerals that were very deep in the soil now are going to be in the surface, available for the grasses or for the coffee or for the harvest. It's the same with all leaves, about the same with all leaves, but the difference is that Inga is always green and is always producing leaf.
And the seed has any value?
The seed, please, who don't know Inga? You? Who else?
Brie, okay.
Brie.
Brie, okay, yeah.
Bribri.
There.
So do you know it as bribri, yeah?
Big one.
The Sil family.
Okay. Later on, please, someone explain the lady about.
So before we go to your other question, I wonder if there were some comments maybe related to this first question.
No, but it's a question of the fruit. Just very. The fruit of Inga, the seed is covered with a white pulp. It's very good, but yeah, it's not. Now in Colombia, you see some people selling Inga fruit, but the important thing of the Inga fruit is biodiversity. Really, it's a very good food for carrots and for many other birds.
For what?
The fruit.
The cattle?
The fruit of Inga. No, for biodiversity, for animals.
Okay.
For birds, for carrots.
Okay.
For many other animals.
Good.
Inga tree. If you plant it with good soil fertility, with some organic matter, about, I would say, in 3 years, you are going to have a tree that is maybe 5 meters height, and about in 5 years, it's going to bear fruit, more or less.
All right. So sorry, but we got some because we got moderate time and lots of comments here. Perhaps you guys can get together and talk more about the Inga tree. I don't want to interrupt, but perhaps if we have some comments related to the original question, and then. Okay, we'll continue with Inga.
The Inga is a genus. There is about 300 species from South Texas to North Paraguay. 300 species. Really, in Colombia, I think with coffee, with grassland, we use about five species. It means that I don't know most of the Inga species, but up to the point I know, they are very good.
Louder, please.
Technical question about rotating and grazing and crossfits and things like that. Do you plan for seasonal grazing these trees? And do you turn your cattle out on corn during certain parts of the year, or rotating your grazing, or how do you manage your processing and grazing throughout the year?
No. In the Colombian conditions and most Latin American conditions, we are talking about grazing. You say in English 24/7. I'm going to say 24/7, 365.
Yeah, no, rotate.
Neither was
Rotate.
Do you rotate in Costa Rica?
Every day,
Okay.
lots of animals.
And do you, is that done just every day or seasonally?
It depends, if you're in your rainy season or a growing season, we're on a rotational schedule of less than 2 weeks of pasture. And then when you get into a drier season, then, it gets a little bit longer. But it depends on, here again, what you have growing and what kind of grasses you're using. And I just like to say, in terms of what trees to plant, take a look around. If you look at areas that have not been disturbed, whatever those trees are is probably what you want to help to develop. And in terms of grasses, you want to plant or allow to grow the grasses that are best to maintain in a active growing state. Like some environments, bunch grasses are going to take a lot longer to grow, and then if you're not using chemicals to get rid of weeds, bunch grasses quite often have open areas around them, and so they could have some weeds or something. So pick a grass that fits your area, and here again, look around, and it's usually a native grass versus an improved grass.
What about guys here as far as rotating and processing?
On my farm, I have a system where I have about 40-acre pastures, and I'm rotating about almost every week. Now, yesterday, when Dr. Alvaro was speaking, he said 5 days, and I meant to ask him about that later. Maximum of 5 days per pasture. I'll have to talk about that and figure that out. I don't know. I mean, I guess then you'd want smaller pastures. I think with your rotation, what you're going to realize is you need to decide the size of your paddocks based on the amount of animals you want to run. That's what makes so that what you want to do is you have long enough that your cows can eat the grass, come out, and go around the whole rotation. By the time they get back, the grass is already grown to the height what you want.
Are you integrating any corn production or beef production?
No, I'm straight grass. What we've actually done, we've planted imported grass from Brazil. I mean, that's what we have. What I've done, I mix a seed. Because exactly what he said, if you have bunching grass, then in the areas so I mix actually a running grass and a bunching grass. And that's how I have it planted. I mean,
And we'll rotate every day, every 2 days. So I say 2 weeks. That's a cycle that we're coming back around to again. And the more diverse forage you can have, the better soil fertility you're going to have, the quicker the rotation will be. And it's just a cycle that just gets better and better. The more you'll have legumes, you'll have different forages and different things. Sometimes the problem with a lot of these improved grasses are, one of the benefits and what people like about it so much is because you don't have to worry about weeds and stuff. But it's killing off quite often. It's allelopathic effect. It can keep a lot of things away, but it can also keep legumes, trees, a lot of things like that can be affected also. So, I'm a little more on the side of just, kind of going with the flow, and whatever's going on around you, just try to join into that and enhance it in any way that you can. And, more times than not, you'll be more effective. I've planted in the past, all kinds of improved grasses, homunculus, mobassas, brisanta, decumbrans, angleton. It kind of goes on. And I still have some of those grasses, but of what I see for long term, the best thing that we can do is just to allow these native grasses to do their thing. But of all grasses, you have to maintain, and the reason why you're asking about rotational, you have to maintain all of them at an optimum height. because if they go beyond that, then they become too tough and the animals don't want to eat it. It oxidizes and goes up to the environment. If you graze it down too low, then it's the other way around. Then it's dying off. But if you can just keep it at this perfect height, and the way we do that is, you go through managed intensive grazing, but inevitably you're going to have some weeds coming up. Some of them are good. They're all good as long as they're in a tender state. But once they get beyond that, and another thing you'll have with cattle is they do patterning. They'll go into a pasture and they eat one kind of way, So then you pull them out, and the next time you bring them in, and they're not even going to eat the stuff they didn't eat. They're just going to come back and eat the tender stuff that's there. And so we'll go through and top it. We'll mow it, and get everything back at a low state. So when the cows go back in there, they're getting, they're eating more uniformly at that point. But also, instead of only getting benefit from part of your pasture for carbon sequestration and all that, everything is going nuts and doing the whole thing at one time. So it's a much more beneficial way to do what we're trying to achieve anyways, which is store the most carbon we can into the ground, and at the same time we're creating the soil fertility, and you're producing better whatever you're doing, cows or trees or whatever. No, we don't.
The questions for everybody, I think they are not going
The
to.
question was, there's no winter in Costa Rica, but is there a hay business? I know in
Yeah.
Texas.
Yeah, well, we have the same thing or worse. Our dry season can be extremely bad, and in the
winter.
yeah, it's our winter. The trees lose their leaves, and it gets really dry. But one of the benefits of agroforestry, of silvopastoral endeavors is that we can bridge this. We used to feed hay, now we don't feed hay anymore. They can eat a lot of forage from forests. They can eat a lot of forest seeds. We're maintaining our moisture. Our soils has more of a sponge-like ability to retain moisture. So we're able usually to just kind of make our way through the dry season.
Cortar las respuestas tan largas.
Make it what?
Does that make your meat processing seasonal?
No, we just have a cow-calf operation. We don't really produce finished cattle, so it really the only thing we're concerned about is weaning weight of our calves, and it will affect that somewhat.
All right, so you had 4 questions. You mentioned one. We'll give you. Could we do another one there? We're right on time, but we started late, so the next panel is not till 4. We're having a discussion here. If everyone is okay, let's keep going for a little bit more. Is that all right? Okay.
I think before the question about your comment, yesterday I mentioned no more than 5 days in each paddock. Actually, if you ask in CPAC, the official CPAP is no more than 3 days in the same paddock. I say I'm more flexible, no more than 5 days. What's the reason? It's not a magical number. When cattle is in a new paddock, they start eating grass. Yeah. But after 3-4 days, you are going to find some regrowth. And if cows are in the same paddock, they are going to eat that regrowth, and that's going to damage the grass. It's going to affect the capacity of the grass to regrow. Then the objective is to avoid cattle in the paddock to eat the regrowth, and for that reason, it's our recommendation: no more than 3. Alvaro, the flexible, no more than 5 days in the same paddock.
Okay, so quickly, in the cooperative where we are living, we are experiencing loss of pasture fertility. So what we are trying to do, we don't have many trees in the pasture. So we started to create a live fence of species that cows doesn't eat. We planted 4 sticks, and we created a live fence of a square of 4 meters every 15 meters. And we planted there 2 leucaena trees. So in this way, we waited the sticks to root. So, and then we put the alambre, no?
Why?
Yeah, so in this way the sticks is fixed in the soil, and this is an experiment. So I wanted to ask if, because we didn't want to keep away the cows from the pasture, because the owner didn't want to lose income. So this was a solution. We are actually seeing if this solution is working. And I wanted to ask if the percentage, what is a proper tree cover percentage for this tropical pasture? And if you know other ways to plant trees without keeping away the cows from the pasture.
Want me to answer? The most trees you can possibly have and still be able to produce the grass. And Alvaro pointed out in his program, you can start pruning back lower limbs so you can get more sunlight in. And also, depending on how many trees you really do want, there are wide-bladed grasses grow like Guinea grass. I saw a lot of native Guinea grass around here. Wide-bladed grasses grow better in the shade. Thinner-bladed grasses grow better in the open areas. So, if it's on your own place and you are planting grass, you can do that.
So it depends from the grass you have there, the pasture.
The what?
It depends on the grass you already have in the pasture.
Yeah.
Or you want to use.
If you're rotating your cattle or horses, well, horses not, they tear up everything. But if you're rotating your cattle in an appropriate manner, they're not going to try to tear stuff up. And the reason they say 3 to 5 days is because once they get bored in a pasture, even if there's still some grass, they start trying to tear up stuff. They'll start chewing on a tree or doing that. But if you keep them on a fairly quick rotation, they'll just go in and do their thing, and then you move them on to the next area. We have a lot of pastures where as tons of trees that have made it up from seedlings during all the cattle, the time of the cattle, but they got to have something to eat. And if there's a lot of trees around, they're less likely to destroy them. Whereas if you just have a couple of trees there, they're going to go over and mess around with them.
Thank you.
Yes. Okay. Any other comments for that question?
Sure.
Oh, Beth has a question.
I have a question, and I apologize if you covered it in the session because I was.
I did.
So my question is, what about the decrease in parasite problems? Like how much Brock, if you first didn't have a rotational system and then you went to it, how much has how much less do you have to worm your animals?
Well, some of the downsides of agroforestry is there's just a lot more parasites, snakes, ticks, along with everything that's going good. Everything's growing. No, well, we have more tick problems probably, or we always have had. We have ticks, but the one thing we do is we do spray for ticks. So that's about the one chemical we use there because it's hard for us or we use a pour-on or whatever. That's the one thing it's hard for us to get rid of. But it definitely helps to get them out of an area and giving it a while. The traditional best way in Guanacaste to get rid of ticks and everything else is to torch the whole place. Light the whole place up, and that's what they've done for many years. So we're just trying to work our way out of that now.
Is there a certain amount of days that you break the tick cycle to by keeping the cattle out of it?
Yeah, you can, but you just have to stay on it. And
that doesn't coordinate with the grass.
Well, with our rotation, by the time we kind of rotate in long, far away places. So by the time we get back, we'll deal with the ticks, but you know, it's hard to, some of the porons break that cycle a lot better, but it's been kind of an ongoing problem for us.
In our, but about the same question, in our case that we have seen and we have done some research, is the general problem with rotational grazing and silvopastoral systems. The problems of ticks, the problems and flights are less compared to the non-rotational, non-silvopastoral systems. And I'm going to give you some explanations. For example, in the case of flies, the flies of cattle, I'm not sure the name in English.
Yeah, fly.
Flies of cattle. They reproduce in the manure of cattle, the flies. Yeah. When you have a very good rotational silvopastoral system that is full of life, you are going to have more, remember the name in English, escarabajos, you say it.
Bugs, like bugs, you know,
Dung beetles?
Yeah.
Beetles. You are going to have, in a silvopastoral system with good management, you are going to have more beetles. And those beetles, they go to the manure, they use the manure to reproduce, to multiply, to take down to the surface of the soil. And in that way, the cycle of the flight is interrupted. The beetles don't give the manure enough time to be there for the flies to multiply. And about the ticks, we need some more research about that. But when you have a soil that is full of life, you remember ticks lay the eggs in the ground, and when you have a soil that is full of life, that eggs are going to find a lot of enemies, a lot of organisms and microorganisms are going to eat those eggs. In general, we have more biological control in silvopastoral systems compared to open grassland. We have ticks. I'm not going to say we don't have ticks, but there is another important point that can be useful for you. We use metarrhizum and another fungi I don't remember to spray the cattle to fight ticks. But there is a problem when your cattle is in open grassland. You spray the fungus, and the fungus is under full sun. That fungus is not going to survive too much. But when cattle is in a silvopastoral, in a real silvopastoral system, most of the time is in an environment without full sunlight and with more humidity. The fungi is going to survive for more time and is going to work for more time. At the beginning, maybe you need to spray, let's say, every month. But after some time, we have the examples, we are going to spray every 2 months, every 3 months, and even more. In a silvopastoral system, you are going to have more animals, more insects, more all those things, but you are going to have more biological control as well.
So can you apply with the big trees and everything, like running W sprays, they do the meteorizing, they have the spray plate now. So can you apply the meteorizing with a spray plate when you have your established all the different levels of canopy? Do you have to
No,
apply it?
I'm not sure if I understood that.
They do it with a mist blower. When you have a lot of tree cover, the metarrhizum, you can put it down with a mist blower.
Entonces, puedes hacer la fumigación aérea.
Yes, right behind a tractor, or they have the backpack ones to go into anywhere.
But the system I'm talking about is spraying the cows. It's the traditional way. It's spraying the.
Yeah, no, that's the way to go.
For ticks,
Because
Well, that
It
was
helps
the
the
frog
ticks for the
hopper.
frog hoppers. We had
You're
problems.
doing two things at once.
And then it
Yeah,
big
yeah.
difference with the ticks. We saw it. Yeah, I was surprised.
Yeah, yeah.
Who else? We still have, 5 more minutes if you have more questions. Yes? You gotta come here, so everyone.
How many cows per hectare we should put in this tropical pasture and rotating? Do you have an idea of the pressure?
It just depends on the place. I don't think there's any one formula for, how many cattle you can put on it. It's not really a mathematical thing. It's kind of a biological thing. Like up in Montana, different places, they never talk about a 10,000 acre ranch or 20,000 acre ranch. It's always a 300 cow ranch or a 600 cow ranch. You put in what you can do, and if you manage correctly, you can be, building that up. But it just depends on your area.
So if you don't have enough cow, it's better to reduce the surface of your plot and to rotate every 3 or 5 days according to the size of the herbs. So you want, you say, the 15 centimeters high, the grass, in order to keep
Depends on the grass, but
to keep the weed that you don't want, to keep controlled the weed.
yeah, and
Okay.
also grass. When the grass gets too tall, it's almost worse than weeds. It's pretty tough. So you'll know when you don't have enough cattle, because when the grass is, if you're doing it the right way, if the grass is getting too tall, then you need more cows. And then you'll know you have too many when you're coming back around. You got nowhere else to go, and it hadn't gotten to the right height again.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, about very often we like those questions with a right number. How many days? 30. How many cows? 2 per hectare. How many trees per hectare? 150. We love that kind of answers. But the biological world doesn't work in that way. Are you talking, just as a general, are you talking about a very good soil with 6% of organic matter? Are you talking about an acid soil with few organic matter? Are you talking about a region with 2,000 millimeters rainfall per year? Are you talking about a region with 600 millimeters rainfall per year? Are you talking about a region 100 meters above sea level? Are you talking about some regions in Colombia 2,000 meters above sea level? There are many variables to consider. Then please don't try to get those numbers that is just this one. We need the basic knowledge. We need to understand something that is called photosynthesis. Yeah. If we understand very well what's photosynthesis and what's the meaning of photosynthesis, we are going to understand a little bit better how we must manage our crops, our grasslands, our trees, all those things. Those, please, who are not familiar with photosynthesis, just go to internet and try to understand what photosynthesis is, and by sure is the basic knowledge for agriculture, for livestock, for all those things.
All right. Well, I think, there's not too much stressing about thinking about the importance of photosynthesis. We all went to 4th grade. We all thought that we knew it, but it's not complex, but it's something we forget about, and that's a source of life, and it's a source of energy. I like this idea of there's no size fits all solution. We always emphasize that. We always stress that. Think about the context, think about where you're coming from. There's multiple factors, but I think that this idea of silvopasture combining with livestock and appropriate rotational grazing is something to explore, to keep in mind. So unfortunately, we have to close this panel because there's a new session coming at 4, a very interesting one and a very complicated one, which is marketing challenges for non-traditional crops. We all know what to do with our corn. We all know what to do with our beans, with our wheat. Unfortunately, in many cases with our soy. Non-traditional crops and how can we market those. But please, big clap to everyone here, panelists, and all of you for being here.